As the sun begins to fall and shadows stretch across ancient stone, we ride into a world carved by time, ruled by gods, and wrapped in jungle mystery. This is Angkor, the spiritual heart of Cambodia, and once the capital of a mighty empire. But this isn't just a visit. This is a journey on two wheels, through forgotten temples, quiet forest paths, and timeless villages, where dusk reveals what daylight often hides. From the iconic towers of Angkor Wat to the peaceful solitude of Banteay Kdei, through the red stone of Preah and the still waters of North Baray, we chase the fading light, all the way to Bayon's enigmatic gaze and beyond. So hop on, hold tight, and let the twilight guide us. This is Exploring the Wonders of Angkor, a detailed journey. As we leave the main complex of Angkor Wat behind us, the grand moat reflecting the morning light, we set our course eastward along what was once the royal road of the Khmer Empire. The route we're taking isn't on most tourist maps. This narrow path winds through patches of dense forest, offering glimpses of smaller shrines often overlooked by visitors who stick to the main circuit. Listen closely and you might hear the distant calls of macaques moving through the canopy above us. Notice how the landscape changes as we ride. We're following ancient pathways once traveled by royal processions and religious pilgrims. The stones beneath our wheels have witnessed centuries of history, from the empire's golden age to its mysterious decline. Up ahead lies Banteay Kdei, often called the Citadel of Chambers. Unlike the precise symmetry of Angkor Wat, this temple offers a more intimate experience. Built in the late 12th century during the reign of King Jayavarman VII, Banteay Kdei has a quiet dignity despite centuries of neglect. What makes this temple special is how it feels almost forgotten, partially reclaimed by nature. Its labyrinthine corridors and hidden courtyards tell stories of Buddhist devotion. Look at the intricate carvings of apsaras, celestial dancers, their graceful forms still visible despite the weathering of time. We've arrived at the eastern entrance, less frequented than the western gate. Venturing into passages where tree roots press against ancient sandstone and where sunlight filters through crumbling roofs to create patterns on the stone floor. Banteay Kdei offers something Angkor Wat's grandeur cannot, a sense of discovery, as if we're the first to rediscover these halls in centuries. Leaving the secluded chambers of Banteay Kdei behind, we continue eastward as the late afternoon light begins to soften. The day visitors are retreating, and we have the ancient roads increasingly to ourselves. This is when Angkor truly reveals its magic, when the crowds thin and the changing light transforms the landscape. Our journey now takes us through a stretch of forest corridor. The massive strangler fig trees create a natural canopy overhead, their twisted roots spilling over remnants of smaller structures, silent witnesses to the passage of time. As we navigate this path, we're following in the footsteps of ancient pilgrims who would have made similar journeys between temples, though certainly not by motorcycle. The road opens up as we approach the eastern Baray, an ancient reservoir built over 1,000 years ago that once measured nearly 7 kilometers long and 2 kilometers wide. Though mostly dry today, this massive engineering feat demonstrates the advanced hydraulic systems that helped the Khmer civilization flourish. The empire's agricultural success was built on water management as much as spiritual devotion. In the distance, a pyramid-like silhouette rises against the darkening sky, Preah Temple Mountain. Built in the 10th century by King Rajendravarman, Preah predates many of Angkor's most famous temples. Its name means turning the body, suggesting its possible use for funeral rituals, where the body would be rotated during cremation ceremonies. As we draw closer, the temple's distinctive reddish hue intensifies in the dusk light. The laterite and brick construction glows like embers against the twilight sky. Preah lacks the ornate decoration of later temples, but its stark geometric beauty and commanding presence make it one of Angkor's most photogenic monuments, especially at this hour. We arrive just as the day's final light bathes the temple's 5 lotus-shaped towers. The steep stairs lead up to platforms that offer commanding views across the surrounding countryside. From the summit, we can see the forest canopy stretching toward the horizon, with the faint outlines of distant temples breaking the green expanse. Preah is particularly meaningful at dusk, when the day's heat subsides and the stone retains the warmth of afternoon. This is when you can truly feel the connection between earth and sky that the temple architects intended to create. As shadows lengthen across the centuries-old brick, we pause to appreciate this perfect moment of transition from day to night, from one sacred site to another on our continuing journey. As the last light fades from Preah's ancient bricks, we descend from the temple and continue our journey northward. The transition from sacred monument to living community happens gradually as we leave the archaeological park's central zone behind. This next leg of our journey offers something different, a glimpse into contemporary Cambodian life that exists alongside these ancient wonders. The road narrows as we approach Preah, a village that has stood in the shadow of temples for centuries. Unlike the carefully restored monuments we've been exploring, Preah presents Cambodia in its everyday authenticity. This is where locals live and work, largely untouched by the tourist infrastructure that surrounds the main temple circuit. Our headlights now illuminate a different kind of scene. Wooden houses built on stilts to protect against seasonal flooding, small family-run shops closing for the evening, and the occasional temple dog watching our passage with mild curiosity. The aroma of charcoal fires mingles with the scent of lemongrass and galangal as families prepare their evening meals. Preah has another name among travelers, Noodle Village, famous for its local specialty of rice noodles called Numban Chok. Though the daytime market stalls have mostly closed, you can still see evidence of the village's culinary heritage in the bamboo baskets and wooden tools set aside for tomorrow's preparations. What makes this village remarkable is its continuity. While empires have risen and fallen, while temples were built and abandoned, communities like Preah have adapted and endured. Many of today's residents are descendants of the very people who once maintained and worshipped at the temples we've been exploring. Notice the small shrines outside many homes, modern expressions of the same spiritual devotion that inspired Angkor's grand monuments. Buddhism remains a living practice here, not just a historical artifact. The evening prayers at the local pagoda bridge the centuries between ancient ritual and present-day faith. As we navigate through the village, we're reminded that Angkor was never just temples and kings. It was a civilization of farmers, artisans, and ordinary people whose daily lives unfolded in villages much like this one. Preah offers us something the silent stones cannot, a connection to the living culture that has persisted long after the fall of the empire that built those magnificent monuments. The evening settles fully around us now as we prepare to leave the village behind and continue toward our next destination. Ahead lies the vast expanse of the North Baray, another engineering marvel of ancient Angkor. Leaving the gentle rhythms of Preah village behind, our path now leads us toward one of Angkor's most impressive, yet least understood features, the North Baray. As night settles more firmly around us, our headlights cut through the darkness, revealing glimpses of an ancient landscape transformed by human ingenuity. The North Baray, also known as Jayatataka, was once a massive artificial reservoir measuring roughly 2 kilometers by 700 meters. Created during the reign of King Jayavarman VII in the late 12th century, this colossal water management project helped sustain a civilization of nearly 1 million people, making Angkor one of the largest pre-industrial cities in world history. Today, much of the Baray appears as open fields and scattered ponds, its original grandeur hidden beneath centuries of sediment and vegetation. Yet as we ride along its perimeter, we can still trace the massive earthen embankments that once contained this vast body of water. The scale becomes apparent when you consider that these structures were built entirely by hand, a testament to the organizational power of the Khmer Empire. The stars are beginning to emerge above us now, the same stars that guided ancient astronomers as they aligned temples with celestial events. The Khmer civilization had a sophisticated understanding of astronomy, and many of their monuments reflect precise mathematical and astronomical knowledge. At the center of this great reservoir once stood the Bayon Temple, a small artificial island representing Mount Meru, the sacred mountain at the center of the Hindu-Buddhist cosmos. Though we won't visit it tonight, its presence reminds us that these waterworks serve both practical and spiritual purposes. The Barays were not merely reservoirs, but cosmic oceans in a landscape designed to mirror heaven on earth. The engineering skills displayed here challenge any notion that ancient civilizations were technologically simple. The Khmer mastered the art of controlling water across an empire that faced dramatic seasonal fluctuations, monsoon flooding followed by months of drought. This hydraulic system collected water during the rainy season and distributed it during dry periods, supporting intensive rice cultivation that could sustain the massive population needed to build and maintain the temples. As we continue along the Baray's edge, the ambient light from nearby Siem Reap creates a faint glow on the horizon. We're traversing a landscape where practical necessity and spiritual vision were perfectly integrated, where the act of managing water was simultaneously an act of cosmic harmony. The gentle hum of our motorcycle echoes across this ancient reservoir as we prepare to turn southward, leaving the North Baray behind us as we head toward our next destination, the enigmatic faces of Bayon Temple at the heart of Angkor Wat. Our journey now takes us south toward the heart of what was once the greatest city in Southeast Asia, Angkor Thom, the Great City. As we approach, the massive outer walls loom ahead, stretching nearly 3 kilometers on each side, forming a perfect square that encloses an area of 9 square kilometers. Even in the evening darkness, the causeway leading to the south gate of Angkor Thom creates an imposing first impression. Our headlights illuminate rows of stone figures lining the bridge. On one side, gods, and on the other, demons, all engaged in an eternal tug-of-war with the great Naga serpent, reenacting the cosmic churning of the ocean of milk from Hindu mythology. Passing through the monumental gateway, topped by 4 giant faces gazing in cardinal directions, we enter what was once a thriving metropolis of perhaps 100,000 inhabitants. Unlike the Temple Mountains we've seen earlier, Angkor Thom represents urban planning on a grand scale. A royal city with palaces, public spaces, and numerous temples within its walls. The road leads us toward the exact center of this ancient city, where the Bayon Temple rises from the darkness. Built by King Jayavarman VII in the late 12th or early 13th century, the Bayon served as the state temple of the king's new capital. Unlike the soaring verticality of Angkor Wat, the Bayon presents a more compact, almost jumbled appearance, a mountain of stone that reveals its secrets gradually. In the evening light, the temple's most distinctive feature emerges with particular drama: the giant stone faces that adorn its towers. Scholars have counted over 200 of these massive visages, each with the same enigmatic smile, gazing outward in all directions. These are believed to represent either the king himself or the Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara, embodiment of compassion, perhaps deliberately blurring the distinction between the two. There's something uniquely powerful about encountering these faces in the deepening twilight. The play of shadows across their features seems to bring them to life, as if they might speak at any moment. Their expressions are often described as the Khmer smile, serene, knowing, and slightly mysterious. Some faces appear to be watching you, while others gaze into eternity. The Bayon marked a significant shift in Angkor's religious landscape. While earlier temples were primarily dedicated to Hindu deities, Jayavarman VII embraced Mahayana Buddhism. The Bayon reflects this transition, incorporating elements of both traditions. The faces themselves embody this spiritual duality. They can be seen as both the divine king and the compassionate Buddha. As we circle the temple on our motorcycle, each angle reveals new perspectives on this architectural marvel. The stone corridors and chambers contain some of the finest bas-reliefs in Angkor, depicting not just mythological scenes but everyday life. Markets, naval battles, cockfights, and fishing, providing us with a window into the daily existence of the Khmer people 8 centuries ago. The Bayon stands as a testament to the height of Khmer artistic achievement, created at a time when the empire was at its territorial peak. Soon after its completion, the civilization began a long, slow decline. Yet these stone faces have continued their silent vigil through centuries of abandonment and rediscovery, watching as empires rose and fell, as the jungle reclaimed and released its grip on the city. As we prepare to leave this sacred space, taking one last look at those enigmatic smiles, we continue our journey back toward where we began, the incomparable Angkor Wat. Leaving the enigmatic smiles of Bayon behind us, we begin our return journey through the ancient city of Angkor Thom. The night has fully claimed the sky now, transforming our experience of these monuments. Where the day reveals detail and grandeur, the night evokes mystery and contemplation. As we navigate past the Bathuan and the Phimyanakas, temples now shrouded in darkness, we're following a route that would have once been processed by kings and royal entourages. The massive Terrace of the Elephants looms to our right, a 350-meter platform where the king would stand to review his troops and watch public ceremonies. Even in silhouette, we can make out the parade of elephants carved into its face. Exiting through the Victory Gate on the east side of Angkor Thom, we leave the confines of the walled city and enter the expansive space that separates the great city from Angkor Wat. This area was once densely populated, home to wooden structures, markets, and the homes of ordinary citizens that have long since disappeared, leaving only the stone monuments to tell their story. The road straightens as we approach Angkor Wat once more. Coming upon it at night offers a completely different perspective than the typical sunrise or daytime visit. Without the crowds, with only the gentle illumination of the night sky, Angkor Wat reclaims something of its original purpose. Not as a tourist attraction, but as a sacred space, a mountain palace built for gods and kings. The vast moat surrounding Angkor Wat appears as a band of darkness, reflecting fragments of starlight. This 190-meter wide body of water has protected the temple for nearly 9 centuries, not just from human invaders, but from the encroaching jungle that claims so many other structures. Crossing the causeway toward the western entrance, the temple's main approach, we can appreciate why Angkor Wat remains the most perfect expression of Khmer architectural genius. Its balance, symmetry, and harmonious proportions were unprecedented in the 12th century and remain unmatched today. Unlike other temples in the complex, Angkor Wat faces west, associated with death in Hindu cosmology. Built by King Suryavarman II as both a state temple and his eventual mausoleum, it represents Mount Meru, the home of the gods. Its 5 towers symbolize the 5 peaks of the sacred mountain, while the moat represents the cosmic ocean. What distinguishes Angkor Wat is not just its scale, but its refinement. The Temple Mountain represents the height of classical Khmer architecture, when technical mastery and artistic vision achieve perfect balance. The sandstone blocks fit together with such precision that many joints are nearly invisible. The bas-reliefs extend for nearly a kilometer, depicting epic Hindu narratives and historical events with extraordinary detail. As our motorcycle idles before this monumental achievement, we complete a circle that has taken us through centuries of Khmer civilization, from the early temples of the East to the Buddhist monuments of Jayavarman VII, and back to this Hindu masterpiece that preceded them. The journey has shown us the evolution of an empire through its sacred architecture, how beliefs changed, how artistic styles developed, and how political power was expressed through stone. Yet beyond the historical significance, these temples speak to something universal: humanity's desire to create beauty, to honor the divine, and to leave a mark that outlasts our brief lives. As we prepare to leave Angkor Wat behind and head toward the modern city of Siem Reap, we carry with us impressions of a civilization whose greatest achievements have endured for nearly a millennium, and may well endure for a millennium more. As the ancient gives way to the modern, our journey takes us from the serene grandeur of Angkor Wat toward the vibrant city of Siem Reap. The road stretches before us, illuminated by our headlight cutting through the night. A fitting metaphor for how we've been traveling through layers of time throughout this adventure. The route between temple and town offers a fascinating transition. Just decades ago, this was a quiet path through forest and farmland. Today, it serves as a vital connection between Cambodia's cultural treasures and the bustling hub that has grown to accommodate visitors from around the world. Siem Reap, whose name literally means defeat of Siam, referencing an ancient victory over the Thai kingdom, has evolved from a small village to a thriving city that balances preservation and progress. As we enter its outskirts, notice how traditional Khmer architecture influences even modern buildings. Peaked roofs, ornate details, and respect for harmony with the natural environment. The streets become more animated as we approach the center of town. Restaurants, cafes, and markets remain active into the evening. The famous pub street lights up ahead, where travelers from across the globe share stories of their own Angkor adventures. Yet just a few blocks away, quiet neighborhoods maintain a more traditional pace of life. What makes Siem Reap remarkable is how it has embraced tourism while maintaining its cultural identity. The revenue generated from Angkor visits has transformed the city, funding new infrastructure, schools, and opportunities for local residents. Many of the artisans you'll find in the markets are practicing crafts that have been passed down through generations. Contemporary expressions of the same artistic traditions that created the masterpieces of Angkor. As our motorcycle tour concludes, we've witnessed the full spectrum of Cambodia's heritage, from the awe-inspiring temples of a mighty empire to the living culture that continues to evolve and thrive. We've seen how the past and present coexist here, how ancient wisdom still informs modern life, and how the Khmer people have preserved their identity through centuries of challenge and change. This journey on two wheels has offered perspectives that would be impossible to gain on foot or by tour bus. We felt the changing air as we moved between jungle and clearing, temple and village. We've experienced the freedom to explore at our own pace, following in the footsteps of explorers and adventurers who rediscovered these monuments after centuries of obscurity. The temples of Angkor represent one of humanity's greatest achievements, a testament to vision, devotion, and sheer determination. But they are not merely relics of a distant past. They are living monuments that continue to inspire and amaze, that continue to reveal their secrets to those willing to look beyond the surface. If this journey has sparked your interest in exploring Cambodia's wonders for yourself, whether by motorcycle, tuk-tuk, or on foot, remember that these ancient stones have stories to tell that no video can fully capture. Each visit reveals something new, something personal, something that speaks to each traveler differently. I hope you've enjoyed this two-wheeled tour through history with Remorqable. If you found this journey enlightening, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the Remorqable channel. Your support helps us continue creating immersive travel experiences that go beyond the ordinary tourist path. For those interested in more motorcycle adventures through Cambodia and beyond, hit the notification bell to be alerted when our next journey begins. Share this video with fellow travelers who appreciate exploring World Heritage sites from a different perspective. This is Remorqable, where remarkable journeys unfold on two wheels. Until our next adventure, travel well, stay curious, and remember, sometimes the most extraordinary discoveries await just off the beaten path.